Hey, what can you do when you're going down the shoreline and everybody's throwing a Ned rig? Ned's around you to the left of you, Ned's around you to the right of you, and you're trying to catch pressured fish in a finesse situation. Stick around, I've got some tips on a Midwest Finesse technique that I think will get you some fish around pressured areas competing against those dirty little Neds. Okay, so everybody's fishing a Ned rig, and you know everybody's fishing a Ned rig. You might even have a Ned rig tied on. And so you're in a pressured fish situation, you got to finesse fish for them. This technique, I'm calling it the Midwest Finesse technique, but it's a technique that's going to utilize some finesse components that are coming onto the scene. I've seen them on a few videos now. I've had them for 2 seasons, so they've been out there. It's a saltwater product. Really, the terminal ends of this are saltwater product for rockfish, but I've made the transition to finesse bass fishing, and I'll show you a little bit about it. First, the bait of choice I'm going to use is a TRD, Z-Man TRD craws. They're a little crayfish shaped bait. I'll show you here one here, and they're super buoyant. They're this, you know, the Z-Man plastics. They come in some great colors. I use 2 colors. I use a green pumpkin orange. It's got a green pumpkin orange color, and then if I'm into some darker water, I'm using a molten craw, which is a little bit darker green, and it's got some copper and some red flake in it. So I'm using the TRD craws, and then I'm using some special components, and those components are from Verivas. The first one is the Verivas little sinker there. It's shaped like a little hand grenade, and it's got a little hook end on it, and we'll show you what that little hook end is for. And then I'm using a size 1 Verivas mosquito hook, and those 2 components are special in that the mosquito hook has a loop on it, and I'm going to show you the loop and the weight on it. So there's a little mosquito hook with a wire brush guard on it, and it's got a little nylon loop on it and a little place to clip that sinker on. So the sinker goes directly onto the mosquito hook, and on the business end for my leader, I'm going to be using 8-pound, no heavier than 8-pound fluorocarbon line. Sometimes I'll go 6-pound if they're super finicky, because of the way I'm hooking this thing up and because of the way I'm going to fish this thing. So I take my Z-Man craw, and I'm going to go into the top of the hook. I'll go to the side of the wire guard. I'll just thread it in straight about 1/2 of an inch and get that thing to land on there so that it comes down to about the level of that sinker. So I've threaded it on, centered up that hook, and I'm at the level of that threaded sinker, and so that thing is set up like that. And what this allows you to do, and I'll bring a little video up on the screen here and show you that this sinker, this grenade sinker, lands right at the base of the bait, at the tail of the bait, and this puppy, because of the Z-Man plastic, stands straight up, claws straight up in the air in a defensive posture. And I'm going to fish this very, very slowly. I'll do it 2 ways. The first way is going to be very slowly, almost no motion imparted by me at all, no jigging action. And this is especially useful if I see those fish on my live imaging or my forward-facing sonar too, and they're nosing down on a bait and just staring at it, and they won't eat a Ned, they won't eat other finesse baits. Sometimes they get like that. This is a great bait to throw. It stands right up, and those claws with no motion at all, barely a tick of that movement to that bait will move those craws in that defensive posture, and those smallmouth bass, or bass in general, cannot stand it. So one way is to throw it out there, literally let it sit still. You see more and more professional anglers dead sticking their baits in front of fish that would otherwise maybe, you know, you'd think they'd bite a moving bait. But when they don't want it, they don't want it. And when they come over to it and nose down on it, they're curious enough to examine it. You need to just leave it alone. A lot of times just sitting still for 30 to 60 seconds can sometimes get you a bite, and then you can concentrate on just feeling the pickup and the weight and set the hook, and this will get them in the top of the mouth every time. The other way that you can fish it is you cast it out in those areas, and let's say you don't have forward-facing sonar, but you're in an area that's rocky, maybe gravelly, sandy, and you know it's relatively, you know, wood and weed-free. You can throw this out and then let it hit the bottom, and then just slowly, ever so slowly reel it in. So this thing's dragging across the bottom, and it's going to drag across the bottom with those pinchers up, and that little weight is going to clack against every pebble and sand and rock on the bottom and make noise, and that thing is going to be ready to eat. And that's exactly how a crayfish moves away. When it bursts away, its attitude of its body changes. It doesn't just stay straight up, it rocks down and goes in that direction. So it's going to perfectly mimic a small crayfish, especially if you let it sit there. Can be deadly around other times when people are throwing a Ned and the fish are starting to see Neds and Neds and Neds and Neds. They see a lot of Ned baits because a lot of people are fishing Neds, and so they get conditioned to it. And this particular lure, you can throw this out there and let it sit still, and it'll be very successful for you. So this is a Midwest Finesse, kind of a sneaky technique using something that you don't see every day with this Veribas rockfish gear. Has a great applications, this stuff does. I'll be showing some other Veribas videos on some finesse setups. Some of those components that they're making translate very well to bass fishing, and you're seeing some anglers start to pick them up. So hope that's helpful. I hope that finesse tip gets you some bites. I certainly think it will. Please like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you next time on the water.